Hi, and thanks for watching another instructional video for CSCI 1300. In this video, we will talk about how to traverse and print the contents of a nested array. In this case, we're dealing with a size 2 array or a 2D array, which has some row set to 4 and a column set to 4. So we're dealing with a 4 by 4 integer array called A. In order to traverse and print a two-dimensional array, or any nested array larger than a one dimension, we will have to implement one or more loops to traverse multiple rows of columns of information. So when we dealt with one-dimensional array traversal, we usually used a single loop that would traverse the elements from 0 to size -1. With a two-dimensional array, we'll have to use that, but also nest that within an additional loop to traverse the number of rows of information that we have, where the rows being the number of one-dimensional arrays and the columns being the number of entries or elements in any given row that is one-dimensional. So when we stack multiple rows together, we have a matrix or a two-dimensional array. So let's break down what's going on here, and I'm going to start from the inside out. So when I develop a set of loops to traverse a nested array, I usually start with the inside loop. And the reason why is because this would allow me to print the contents of a given row before I print all of the rows using an additional outside loop. So this will go through all of the columns in a particular row and assign a value and then print that information. So the J variable here deals with the columns. So it's going from left to right when it's printing. And if we look at the outside loop now, the outside loop gets incremented iteratively only when the inside loop has gone from 0 to size -1. So every time that we go from left to right across all of the column entries, then and only then can we actually increase our index value for I on our larger outside loop. So let's take a look at what a 2D array would look like when we print it. So what you can see here is that I'm printing the row and then the number of columns or entries within a particular row. Then we move down and our I value changes to 1. And then we print all of the entries using the J value on the inside loop. We then move down, I becomes 2, and we print the contents of the columns at that particular row. So you can see that we have to print all 4 entries here before we can move down and start with a new row. And the index of the row will always be the outside loop variable, and the index of the columns of a particular row will be always associated with the inner loop. That's all for printing and traversing a 2D array or a nested array. Thanks and happy coding!